Hey y'all, this is Nia Tate. I'm here to do a review of Raising Kanan, season 5, episode 3. As we all know, this is the final season of Raising Kanan. So let's get started. So the beginning of the episode, we see Breeze and Kanan are on a corner, and they are talking to Unique's guys, his corner boys, because as we saw last week, Unique rode out into the sunset, so he has not come back. And so they decide that it's time for them to take over them corners. So Unique guys are not going down easy. Um, but they like, we work for Unique. And Breeze said, well, we ain't around. He can't phone this in. So one of the guys was like, well, then it's my corners now. And Breeze said, oh, that's right. Is that right? It's your corners? Okay. So he take his gun out and proceeds to blow him away. And then he starts shooting. The other guys start running. So he tells Kanan that those are now going to be his corners, his blocks. So next up we see Rock and Marvin. They go over to they're having a meeting with Flossie, and Flossie is the woman we met last week who has the escort service with the girls that they're going to actually run the drugs through her girls. So they meet up with a couple of girls that Flossie's picked out who are not going to do the escorting. They're actually going to be delivering the product and collecting the money. And so we see this young black lady, beautiful young lady, and she's like, you know, Rox is like, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but you know, if you don't, we need you to be discreet. And she's like, no, I need to make as much money as I can. So I'm in. So she's, one of the girls in. After Rox leaves, then Flossie tells Marvin that she gives him an address. She said, meet me later for a drink. And he like, what? I don't like he thinks she come trying to come on to him. And she said, no, I just like to get to know the people that I'm working with. And he said, all right, I could use a drink. So we'll talk about them a little bit. Well, let's go ahead and finish it. So later on he goes over there and she has, of course, a beautiful penthouse because I mean she a madam, she got money. And so when he gets there, he's still kind of looking at her on the side, like, what's going on? Are you trying to come at me or whatever? And she actually did. She said, I just find you real interesting. Because, Marvin is kind of abrasive. And the way he was talking to them girls at the meeting, she was like, maybe we don't want to say, maybe we don't want to call them the B word. But she said it. So she told him that she found him real interesting, and she said she liked the idea that he seemed to be real confident, and he didn't, mind working for a woman, his sister, no doubt. She said most men can't do that because they don't have a lot of enough confidence. They always want to be the boss. And she also talked to him about he was looking at her picture. She had a daughter, and so her bar mitzvah. We learned that her daughter was killed um, was also murdered. Now I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna figure. I don't know where they come in at. I don't know why they showing us this, but maybe it'll have something to do later on. And she was telling Marvin, her condolences for his brother, and for him to just always remember the good times that they had. And it was a cool conversation, and that was all that happened. Ain't nothing went on between them. He said good night, she said good night, he left. But I don't know. I think maybe are we seeing some chemistry here? I don't know. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, and next off we see Juke. She is um she meets she goes over to that police officer's house we saw last week where she found out where he lived. And so he getting out the car, going up the steps, and she say, good morning, officer. And he turned around and he like, what you doing here? Like, he was shocked that she knew where he lived. She said, well, you've been following me, you know where I live. Why I can't know where you live? And she said, dang, this how you living? And because he has a nice modest house. And she said, I can make things a lot better for you. You help me, I can help you. And he's like, get out of here. Get out of here. I should arrest you. She said, but you didn't say no. And so she walks away. Later on, we see that he, she comes out of her house and he's sitting out in his car. He said, let's go for a ride. And so she gets in the car and he hands her an envelope and he said, this is my price. I said, see, everybody got a price. So he said, "This is what I need." And he said, "Now we crossed the line as soon as I gave you that envelope. But no, make no mistake, if you mess over me, I will kill you." So she gets out the car and she kind of looks around. But what I don't understand, well, I guess I get it, but she should have told Marvin, or she should have told her and Rock's not getting along. We see that later because she's already been judging Rocks about her lifestyle and stuff. So they're not as close as they used to be. But when Duke go home, Marvin comes in later, and she's like, he's sitting there, he grab a drink because Marvin going through it. He is taking that loot so hard. And she said, "Are you okay?" He said, "No." He said, it's everything. It's Lou, it's Marvin, him and Kanan that got into it. I'm gonna tell you that in a minute. And she said, "Why don't we just go? Why don't we just go somewhere and leave?" And he is like, "No, this is who I am. No matter where I go, trouble gonna find me." I'm like, "Dang, come on, Marvin." He said, "But why don't you go? I want you to. You deserve better than this. Why don't you leave?" And she's like, "I'm not leaving you." I'm like, "Girl." She's like, "I'm not leaving you. I love you." And she said, he's she said, and if I stay, I want in on the game. And he like, "I don't want that for you." She said, "It's not about what you want, it's about what I want." So what she's trying to do, I think, is make enough money to keep that cop off of her back. But I don't know how that's gonna work out you. Well, we know ain't nothing bad gonna happen to her because we seen her in power. So but I think she should have told her dad that. Shoot, Marvin probably would have took the cop out and make it look like an accident. Maybe that's why she didn't tell him. Anyway, so later on, we see that she's going to be working at the club that Rox just bought. Uh, and she's going to be working at the bar, but she really going to be collecting the money from the girls. So Marvin is still on the hunt for Unique. Nobody ain't heard from Unique. He walks into the barbershop and he like, "Look, I got a roll of money. I need some information on Unique. Can somebody tell me where he is?" And so one guy said, "Well, I don't know where he is, but I do know that they said he was working with your nephew, Kanan, and this other dude, Breeze." And so somebody else said, "Yeah, I heard that too." And Marvin like, "What?" He say, "What is Kanan doing? And who the hell is Breeze?" So he go over there to Kanan's house, Kanan's apartment, knock on the door, and I can't stand that big jug headed. He taking his time opening the door and stuff because he's like, he knocking on the door and says, "It's Marvin." So Marvin gets in there and he says, "Say, man, I heard you working with Unique. What you talking about? You know he killed your uncle, right?" And Kanan was like, "That's not, who told you that? That's not true. Who told you that?" And he said, "The streets told me that." And so um, he's like, "Well, he ain't even around." He said, "Well, who is Breeze?" He said, "This dude I'm just running with." Like he kind of minimized it. Like, "Oh, this just dude I know with, but we making moves, and you know, if you need a job, you can come work for me." What he say that for? Marvin said, "Work for you? What you talking about? I know you not offering me no job. First of all, you little Keystone, y'all ain't no gangsters. I'm a real gangster. I live where I live, breathe, and eat this fish. What you talking about? You can't even see me. You can never be me. I never work for you. You work for me." I had to rewind that. That was so good the way Marvin told him off. That was classic. And he just standing there. And so he walk out and when he leave out the door, Kanan is like, "Bye, gangster." It's bad. So so Marvin go over there and tell Rox, of course, what Kanan is doing. And she like, who is Breeze? So she didn't know that either. But she's telling, and Marvin is like, the thing that's killing me is he was going willing to work for Unique, and Unique the one that took Lou down. Now we know that she know better, that she know that's not true. And she tell Marvin, she said, "Look, Unique is gone. He left. All right, he has moved on, and you need to move on too, Marvin. You need to, you need to find a way to, to move on from this because he is still, obsessed with trying to find out who killed his brother, who, as you would think he's supposed to be." And Rox would be the same way if she didn't know that Kanan the one that did it. And so Marvin goes talk to the pastor. And the pastor told him he got to find God, to be able to find forgiveness. And Marvin is like, "No, I ain't," he don't want to hear that. So he's just wrestling with his, with his feelings and stuff. Um, Next up, we see Russo. I think that's his name. That's Tony Danza. We see he talks to um Kanan because he went talk to Russo, went talk to the kingpin in Manhattan, the one that Roxas is working for. The kingpin in Manhattan met with Russo and let him know, "Look, I'm gonna be working with Rock. I don't need your approval. I'm just letting you know." And so Russo told him, he said, "Look, she Diane Carroll. She might look like Diane Carroll. When she wake up in the morning, she a snake." Don't he trying to tell him, and he really should listen because we know Roxy's not to be played with. But he don't want to listen. He like, he all in for it because of course they're gonna be making money. So Russo meets with Kanan after that and tell him that he don't like the idea of Rox. He said, she gonna be working in Manhattan. And so Kanan like, "They ain't got nothing to do with us. We on this side. What's the big deal?" He says, "A big deal because I feel disrespected." And I just want to make sure that my problem with Rocks is our problem with Rocks. In other words, I don't like her, and I need you not to rock with her either. And he said, so Kanan said, "Look, Rocks and I got our own issues." And he said, Russo said, "Yeah, I can only imagine." So I don't know if Russo is gonna try to take Rocks out, and I don't know. They just kind of left it at that. So next up, we see what's that? I can't remember his name. He's the guy that works with Breeze. Is the name Trey? He like the right hand man, and he don't like Kanan. He didn't like Kanan or Unique because he felt like Pop and Snap stepped over him because he'd been working with Breeze and them longer, and with Pop and Snap longer, and he feel like he should be like, at the same level of Kanan or Unique, but they didn't promote him, so he got a real problem with it. So, um, Rox picked up on that. Somebody, one of her corner boys, told her about that situation. So I think she gonna enlist him some kind of way to help her fight against Unique at some point, because it's obvious they don't even respect him at all. So he told Kanan, he told him, he's like, "I've been here before you and I'm gonna be here after you leave." And he was talking to Kanan while, he was counting the money and stuff. And Kanan he wasn't even answering him. And he said, "You heard me?" Kanan said, "Man, you messing up my count." He just kind of laughed at him. Cause he like, "Bruh, go somewhere. You ain't even worth the effort." So we see at the two things towards the end of the episode. One is the young lady that I talked about earlier that's working for Rocks. She is also escorting, but she's also taking the money. So she went do a drop that went okay, successful, to some high rise building. She got the money and everything. So when she came back, Juke was like, "Well, we need to find you another drop." She said, I can't. Flossie, um, Flossie has a job for me. I gotta go." So she went. So who she goes to escort, I guess. And next we see she knocking on the door. And who opened the door but Kanan? So I'm like, what is going on here? So does Kanan know that the girl work? I'm sure he does work for maybe that's part of the whole Russo thing. Maybe that's what they're trying to do, set it up like that. I don't know, but I know the girl don't know who he is, that he is Rox's son. but Kanan, I'm sure, know that she worked with rocks. So I don't know if he gonna try to get her to like infiltrate rocks, and pay her to. I don't know. It went off. And then the second thing that was interesting was that we see a car come through the corner and shoot up the guys on the block that was Unique's guys that are now Kanan's guys. So I mean, they come through and just clear it out. And a couple of guys got away, but then the cops are there and they're looking, at the scene and stuff. And who the camera pans to the person behind the wheel of the car that did the shooting, and it was Breeze. I said, so you set Kanan up. You can't be trusted. You trying to take Kanan down too. So he want to be the 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 only one, I guess, is what it is, because Snap and Pop gonna be like, now your corners is gone, Kanan. This gonna, make them look at him funny. So yeah, Breeze is a snake. We should have known that. So that was the episode. I think that's in pretty much everything that happened. It was a pretty good episode. I'm gonna give it a B. Thank you all for listening to my review, and I will be back here next week. I'm out.